Hello and welcome to Bergkamp Wonderland. How are we all? We hope you're well. This is the special John mentioned on the last podcast. We're, tonight we're doing a mental health special, and we're fortunate enough to be joined by Paul Price. He's a Crystal Palace fan, and he's doing something magic, and we're going to talk about that tonight. Along with Paul, I've got John Welsh. As regular listeners of the pod know, you kind of mention mental health on a regular basis. And when one of our friends, Gav from Shewo, mentioned what Paul was doing, there was no hesitation from us. We wanted him on, and we wanted him to talk about this. It's something truly brilliant, and we'll get into it now. But this is something important to us all, and we wanted Paul to be part of it, and we wanted to help and highlight it as much as possible. So thank you for listening first and foremost. And we're going to get into the special. So my first thing is to welcome Paul. Paul, how the devil are you?
I'm very well, thank you, guys. Yeah, really, really good.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you ever so much for joining us. We'll come to what you got planned in a bit, but really impressed by your gumption to start this up and to bring this to prominence and to bring mental health awareness, to highlight it in football stadiums, which is a really tough place to do it. So thank you very much for joining us. Okay. And we'll get to that in a second. John Welsh is with me as well. Say hello, John.
Hello, John. How are you doing, Jace?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Thank you very much for joining me, mate. Really, really appreciate it. Apologies, listeners, if the intro hasn't been the slickest, but I wrote down a few questions earlier on, and here we are. So we're going to get into this now. Paul, please tell the listeners what you've been doing with them other Crystal Palace fans and what your plan is for the Arsenal game.
Okay, so this all started, actually. I mean, it's a concept that came about from a good friend of mine who's called Lee. He's a Fulham fan, and he had a really, really bad time of it a few years ago and contemplated all sorts of things. He started doing a walk, and his one's always been around awareness, but also around raising a bit of money as well. So he did that for Calm, which is the campaign against living miserably. And he's done it for a number of years. And one way or another, it was very strange. I bumped into him on a TV show, which was called Fan TV or something like that. It was Justin Lee Collins. It was kicking around a few years ago, and he told his story, and it just struck such a nerve with me, and I really, really related to it. So we then got together when they got promoted, and what we did is we did the Fulham one, and we can come back to that in a while. But with regards to the Arsenal one, I've reached out, and Arsenal's 12 miles away. So I thought, well, why don't we walk there? But the main aim of it, as I say, is just to it's not about raising money. It's about raising awareness and encouraging people to talk or find help, because that's absolutely key.
That's brilliant. I mean, we mentioned this on the live show and the podcast on a regular basis. And we've had some really positive feedback from people over the years where, we've actually helped people. People have gone to seek help because of the things we've said in it. And John, you yourself, you've been brave enough and honest enough to talk about the mental health issues you faced over the years. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, I think these sort of things are really important. I've suffered with depression for around about 10 years now. I had severe problems with anxiety attacks to the point where at times I couldn't even leave my own home. So when it first happened, I was, embarrassed. I was scared. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to talk to my family, my friends about it. I would make excuses, come up with ridiculous lies and all sorts of things to almost cover my tracks as if I was doing something wrong, rather than going to seek help. And eventually got to the point where I broke down, told one of my friends. They encouraged me to go and speak to a mental health organisation. and it really helped and improved my life to no end. I'm so much better off than I was all those years ago now, and since then it's encouraged me personally to speak about my own experiences, and I found it so helpful when I heard others talking about it, in particular men, and this obviously is a really big issue for men, because we do feel embarrassed. We are, of the two sexes, we are typically the ones who won't like going to the doctors or asking for help with, regardless of what it is, whether it's a health issue or directions. We're all very stubborn like that. But mental health is a really, really big issue. It's never really highlighted enough for me. There's not enough stories out there about it. And whenever one of these sort of, whether it's a walk like this or a new charity or whatever it is, anything I can do personally to try and promote that, I think is really important. And as you said, Jace, we've had some really good feedback from some listeners who have reached out and just said the fact that we even just mentioning it has encouraged them to go and talk to someone. And I know that will then go on and help them. So, you know, coming on tonight was obviously a no-brainer for me. As soon as you spoke to me about Paul and everything he's doing, and I just think it's so important. If you are someone who has suffered with mental health issues in any way, obviously do go and seek help. But if you are comfortable enough to talk about it, and there is someone you see suffering or has asked for help, talk to them about your own experiences, because it really does genuinely make you feel like you're not so alone, because you can feel like you're the only person in the world if you're not speaking to anyone. So this is why, for me, this is, you know, such a big issue.
Yeah, I think another thing to highlight is, again, it's not just the individual who's facing these problems that suffers from them. The reason this is so important to me, you know, don't get me wrong, I've had my dark days in life. Okay, we've all been there. We've all had those terrible thoughts, and you know, sometimes, you know, not everybody's lucky enough to be able to cope or to have people to help. But the main reason it's kind of important to myself is, over the years, I've lost a number of friends to mental health issues where they've ended up taking their own lives. And the people who are left behind, I still feel a void in my stomach at not being able to help, not realizing something was wrong, not having the awareness to understand that friends and people who are close and important to me, you know, I still feel like crying now. To this day, I still feel like crying over an incident that happened 27 years ago. And, you know, I go to this person's grave every now and again, and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. And, you know, that person left behind a brother, so two brothers, sorry, the parents' marriage fell apart. The mother ended up falling foul of alcoholism. You know, it's not just about the individual. It's about the people around them, the people that care about them. And I think, you know, for all of us at ABW, and I know I speak for every single member, all 3,625 of us, when I say, you know, we're here to help. We're going to carry on with the interview with Paul now. We will be giving out numbers at the end of the show, okay? But we just want people to be brave, to be brilliant, to be able to cope, and to be able to talk openly about their fears, the issues they face. There's no problem that's too small to talk about. There really isn't. You have to be brave, be brilliant, and just, you know, get it off your chest and get help if you feel you need it, or even if you think you're never bothering anybody. That's the message we want to get across. You're never, ever bothering anybody. And if it makes you feel better, then you're a winner. And I think that's the really important message to get across. So, Paul, back to yourself.
Okay.
You know, I've seen the ITV newsreel that they did on the event at the Fulham game. I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. You know, what are your main aims here? You know, I know it's a kind of obvious question, but I think it's very individual to everyone, and you know, really want to scratch, you know, beneath the surface of what your main aims are, please.
Yeah. So I think firstly, it's football is a sort of worldwide sport. It's got a huge following. That following is men, women, all ages, and just feels like football could be the way into so much good. Football as well. If I met either of you guys in the pub, probably the first question I'd ask you is, what football club do you support? So it's a bit of an icebreaker. The other reason as well is with regards to football. The biggest killer of men in the UK is suicide for anyone who's under 45. So if you just look at that profile in itself and think to yourself, well, that's pretty much a lot of the people that go to football. So that's where that comes from. With regards to what we want to achieve from it, and I always say we, because it is a big group thing, is we you've sort of touched on it really. We want to spread awareness. I did, until I started doing this, people weren't aware that 84 men a week take their own lives, which is just a disgusting, awful statistic. So what we wanted to do was raise that awareness, but also enable people to find help. Now, and finding help doesn't necessarily need to be your family or your friends, because in some ways that's quite difficult. But it's to get across the message that talking is absolutely everything here. Finding the bravery to do that is absolutely huge. Encouraging people to do that is just massive, and it's a clear way of improving your life, as John mentioned earlier, but it's also a way of saving lives as well because of those statistics. So it's literally all about awareness and getting people to talk. That is really what I'm after, and that's what Lee was after as well. He's also doing the walk, by the way. He's a Fulham fan, but he's tagging along with us.
Fair play, Tim. Was Lee interviewed in the ITV?
Yeah, he was at the beginning of it. Yeah.
Right, I know exactly what you're on about now. They're fantastic.
Top guy.
I tip my hat off to him, because the bravery it takes to kind of to face these fears down. A friend of mine, he took his own life last year. And I know I'm running out of friends, and I don't mean to make light of it, but I haven't got enough fingers and toes to count how many people have lost to this sort of thing. And I was talking to his sister about 6 months after the funeral, and I said, the bravest thing I ever saw, I suppose, in my lifetime was the protest in Tiananmen Square, who stood in front of the tank and said, no, I'm going to stand up for what I believe is right and for freedom, etc. And then I thought about, I thought about his brother, and I just thought, Christ, every day must have been like that for him. Every day he must have been stood in front of a tank while he held off, those demons until finally got better of him. And, and I said, everybody's experience is different, but to just know that there's people like yourself and all those fans who marched to the Fulham game, and all those people who are going to march to the Emirates on the day of the Arsenal Palace game, to know that the people out there who understand and who care, I think it's a wonderful thing. And if only they're able to see that, I think it's a brilliant medium to communicate via. John, as you've spoken about your own sort of battles of depression, as Gary said, it's to show people that there are people out there who care. As you said, you would lie, you would cover up, you would do anything to avoid talking about it. What was the thing that tipped you over the edge to get help, mate?
It was for me, it was a combination of just how much it was crippling my life and the encouragement from a friend in the end, which sort of pushed me into going to seek help. And I don't know, it's different for every person. That's what happened in my case. I've got friends who've suffered as well, and for them, they just they built up the bravery and did it off their own back. I'd be interested to ask Paul exactly what it is, from your own personal experience that you've dealt with through mental health. and what you've got out from Calm in particular, the organisation that you're representing.
Yeah. So I think it was early in the 2000s. There was a hell of a lot going on. I had, there was a moving house, family, all kinds of things going on, and I'm always a big believer in you've only got one stress pot as such. I've been to different counsellors, and they've said, and they've tried to delve and find the answer, and I've always felt that there was never an answer. So what happened is my anxiety started building and building. I ended up getting weird panic attacks in the middle of nowhere, in the least sort of expected place. Like, I don't know, I'd be sitting there doing a bit of digging in the back garden or something, and that ended up getting to a point where I was having these all the time. I had the whole social thing that you've mentioned as well, where you didn't really want to go out. I'm lucky in some respects in that I'm really, really, really stubborn, and I would force myself out the door, and it was an absolute battle every day to do that. But I've always done that. Still to this day, I probably do that on occasions as well. But I ended up getting to a point where I was very, very depressed, very low all the time, and that just carried on until a point where, I'm a married man, but I slept downstairs on my own for probably a good eight months. What I did was as well is I was always scared not of suicide as such. I was scared of what that switch was, what turned somebody from someone who's really, really low into doing that. So, I'd be downstairs on my own. I'd hide tablets. I'd hide any sharp objects. I mean, I knew where they were because I hid them, but I made them very difficult to get hold of. And, all the way through the night, I'd be waking up. I'd wake up in sweats and all of those kind of things. So this got to a point where, I've contemplated taking my own life in the past. I really have done that, and I've been fearful of that as well. So the whole thing sort of come together from that, one way or another, and it's not a badge of honor. Some sort of saying this is from the early 2000s till now, so that's a very long time. So I feel like I've got quite a bit of experience. I'm not claiming to be a counsellor or anything like that. I've just got a lot of experience, and what I always believe is it's all about talking. I was lucky enough that one day my wife, I'd hid it as best as I could from her for ages, and one day she said, "Look, we need to go and sort this out," and that was my first step. I didn't want to burden her with it, and I think that's how a lot of men feel. They don't want to burden your family because they've got their own worries. You don't want to burden your friends because they've got their own worries. So the best thing to do by far is go and burden the GP, or go and speak to a charity or a professional that can help you out. And I think that's the real game changer. It's huge. It's huge. It's as I say, it's improves lives and saves lives. So that's massive, and we always need to see if we can find that power to do that.
I think it's really interesting you talk about, you got that stress pot. I know, in the past when kind of, I've struggled with life and everything around me, the ability to have a friend to talk to where, you may end up in tears, there's an outpouring of emotion. There's, it's not kind of stress relief, but it's almost as if you're taking the top off that kettle, and all the steam comes out, and you feel like it's an amazing feeling. Obviously, I'm not really sure if I know from a mental health standpoint if that's what I went through.
Yeah, of course. Or if you did go through it, you were probably too scared to say anything about it, or was it normal? Was it irrational thinking? That's where you get down to.
Exactly, and the funny thing about it is, me and my friends, we've all known each other since school. Okay, so late 80s, 90s, we've done our drink and other stuff, and you all think you're big macho boys and what have you. But it's funny that there came a point where one of my friends was getting divorced, and he was obviously suffering, and it's like, mate, go speak to somebody, get some professional help.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not being yourself, and he did, and remarried, 2 lovely boys. Do you know what I mean? In a good place in life.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing was, it didn't seem unnatural to talk about it in that sense.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, if you'd have asked me this when I was 21, I'm not doing that, mate. I'm too big at rough and tough.
Yeah.
And, you can't survive on your own like that.
No, that's absolutely what you've just said there is also touches on something. So I've got my Twitter account and, I engage about football and this, that and the other and all kinds of other things. But what I've noticed with this, and it does sort of concern me ever so slightly, is a lot of the engagement I get is from people probably north of about 30. And not a lot from people that are younger. So I think it's really, really key that they realise that this thing happens. It doesn't care about the colour of your football shirt, what team you support, how old you are, your circumstances. It can happen to absolutely anybody. And I think it's important, if we do nothing else, just to make people aware that this stuff goes on. And if one day in 20 years' time, or perhaps never, that they experience something, or they know someone who has, then they know there's an avenue and somewhere they can go to. And I think that's absolutely key. So it's almost about bringing on the next generation, if you will, which is it kind of sounds wrong, but what I mean. It's going nowhere, is it? So it's getting worse, if anything.
And that's the problem. I mean, I put a stupid tweet out to Matt Letizia the other day. Again, I've just been a bit cocky, and the replies that came back were golden. And you just thought, okay, I've been a bit of a dick here. You know what I mean? But some of you people have got some real anger issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the thing with, it's the same with disease, okay? It's the same with cancer, heart disease, and what have you. Mental health issues, they're colorblind. They don't care the color of your shirt. They don't care about the color of your skin. They don't care what sex you are. They don't care what age you are. When they come, they're coming to get you. So you need to look after yourself. And this is the one thing we try to bring up a lot on the pod and the live show, is that please take care of yourselves, people. So obviously now, Paul, you've got the march to the Emirates coming up before the Arsenal game.
Yeah.
Talk to me about it and tell me everything about it, and tell me how people can get involved, please.
Okay, so just to sort of go back ever so slightly, the Fulham one that we did, we ended up with 76 people on that. It was like beyond our wildest dreams. It was a really, really positive day. If you watch that actual video, the ITN ITV video, it's actually I don't know, it gives a good overview of what it is we're trying to do, but it also very, very powerful. There's a piece in there with a guy in the centre, and what he says is amazing. So because of all the positivity of that, I've spoken to Lee, as I say, at Fulham, and said I wanted to do another one. Reached out to the Arsenal guys, and straight away, it's just a hashtag. And then all of a sudden you start getting engagement from people, and then it grows from there. And that's literally what this has done. I think what we're going to do, we're going to be leaving. Is the event itself is all about positivity. Really, it's about creating a space where people can have a chat on the way. It's very, very sociable. But it is also, I suppose, the vehicle for the bigger message, which can be spread around on social media. So we're leaving Selhurst at 9:30 in the morning. We've been making our way up through South London. I don't know if you guys know that at all.
We try to stay clear.
yeah. So
I do not go south of the river, okay, at any time. It's a bit too dodgy.
I'm not sure if you mean the Thames or the Severn now.
To be honest, I get vertigo crossing the bridge.
So it's as I say, it's a very sociable event. Because we're going to football as well, everyone will be walking in their club colours. So that's a massive, powerful thing. We get nothing but a lot of negativity always with regards to said they'll be back soon. We get a lot of negativity with regards to football fans, and in fact we're all hooligans and this, that and the other. So you know, in many respects, that's sending a really positive message on its own. But yeah, we'll be walking up through South London. We've got a couple of pub stops on the way up there, and they're just for people to catch up, get yourself a drink, you know, and do that. We're going up past a number of like nice landmarks as well. We do have those south of the river as well. So we've got the Imperial War Museum, which has got two big cannons out the front of it. And then making our way up to the Millennium Bridge. We're going to go over the Millennium Bridge, round by St Paul's, and then straight the way up into North London. I think it's awesome as well. In the I'm not sure if I should or can say this, but Pinebury Corner, you know, it's a renowned home fans pub, but they're welcoming us with open arms as well, which I think is a lovely gesture. And last of all, we're also getting involved in the Arsenal food bank campaign as well. So we're going to be bringing a little bit of food, you know, not too much, so it's too heavy, but we will be bringing a bit of food up as well from south of the river, and that'll be Arsenal fans and Palace fans in order to take part in that as well. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. That's the day. I think the other thing that's worthy of a mention as well is from that, and it certainly happened with the Fulham fans, is we've set up, it's almost like a bit of a support network. There's without it being tagged as a support network, there's a load of people now that know each other, they chatted to each other, and you know, you see they've started following each other on Twitter, and one of them was a Fulham fan and say, "Oh, I'm off to this tonight," and a Palace fan would chirp in and say, "Oh, I met you on the walk, I'm going there, I'll catch you there." You know, there's a lot of that going on as well. So, and a lot of people talking about their own experiences, which can only be a really positive thing.
Yeah, I want you to expand on that, because of course I only had 4 questions for tonight, and I've got the lineup wrong. The questions, the Fulham walk. Talk to me about that, please, because it looked like bloody good fun.
It was amazing. It was really amazing. I mean, I spoke to Lee. He's been trying to grow the events that he was doing, and I feel like that particular walk really made a difference. We spoke to Fulham. They were absolutely amazing. They let us into their I suppose it's their press room. We stayed in there, and then they let us go up, and you probably saw this on the video, but we were allowed up on the steps by the actual cottage. They had no issue with us draping banners all over the place, despite the fact they weren't their colours. But we got that sorted, and then the actual walk down. I mean, it was early February, so the weather was a little bit on the chilly side. We met in a bar just prior to that. Then literally walked down past all the way down through Wimbledon. Everyone was chatting. Everyone was having a laugh. We even had a bit of a we sang a song, they sang a song, you know, kind of thing going on. Everyone like sort of having a bit of fun with each other. There were people talking about their own experiences. Again, we had a few sort of pub stops. We were only literally stopping sort of 15-20 minutes, one quick drink, and then onwards again. But again, it was about that coming together and that social side of things, where people could just talk about I know, they could talk about the weather, they could talk about their football club, they could talk about their own issues. It was all sort of held up around that, I suppose.
Safe thing.
Sorry?
Safe space type thing?
Yeah, it was safe space, as I said before. With regards to football, football's your initial icebreaker. So it was what we did prior to the event, and we've done this as well with the Arsenal and the Palace fans. And what I've done is I've got 2 groups. So there's one I post stuff into the Arsenal fans and say, right, we've done this, we've done that, and I speak to various Arsenal fans. I've also got a Palace one. What I'll do in about a week is I'll bring those 2 groups together, and they start talking to one another, and that sort of creates that initial camaraderie as well. And that group will, you know, I've still got the one in place from the Fulham walk. People still post in there occasionally, and you know, that's really massive. I think the main thing was as well is it was, I don't know, it's just some absolutely lovely moments in the day. Mark Bright, who's an ex-Palace player, he turned up on the walk and did a fair piece of it as well. The actual end of it as well was absolutely fantastic. There was what we did is we all accumulated down the road, and we all walked in together, and I felt that was really, really important. It was also into we've got like a fan zone area, so we walked into that. So it had like a big, colourful, big hitting message. There was Fulham fans walking into that area. Not that it's ever an issue down at our place, but we had opposition football fans walking into that area with Palace fans, sort of. I won't say sort of hand in hand, but shoulder to shoulder. That's a better term. And that was huge as well.
That's fantastic. John, obviously, we're doing a live show after the game. We're not going to be at it, unfortunately, but it's brilliant to hear about this sort of thing, isn't it? And it's nice to see that when the hashtags get going, this can transfer to social media, and you can have a second front in it, can't you?
Yeah, and I think with just the way Twitter is, and I mean, football is huge on Twitter. Our listeners all know, and that's how a lot of them get in contact with us, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, those kind of things. But Twitter really is the big one. And I think walks like this, like Paul's already said, I mean, that ITV London video, we'll give all links and everything. They'll be in the description, and we'll tweet some out, obviously, as well. But people watching that, Paul, was it like over 100,000 views? That's already got
about 120,000.
Yeah, so, I mean,
it went out on the news that night as well.
Yeah, so, just shows the power of social media, and you could have a walk of just under 100, but then it reaches 100,000. So I think that shows the really good side of Twitter. But yeah, obviously we won't be able to make it, but if any of our listeners, if you're in the area or you go into the game and you want to join in and help raise awareness, and I know some of our listeners do go to the games and they try and pop in the radio show afterwards, please do try and pop along for us, because it does mean a lot to us, all of the guys on the pod.
Yeah. What I'll do for you guys as well is sorry to jump in there. Is I've designed the routes so that, as I said, there's some pub stops. But what I've done is I've chosen pubs that are next to railway stations. So if someone can't get, or a tube station, so if somebody can't get down to Selhurst to start off with us in the morning, you can join Herne Hill, which is south of the river as well. You can join at Southwark, which is around the corner from Blackfriars and Waterloo. You can join on the way up at I think there's a Wetherspoons up by Angel as well. We're not actually stopping there, but that's another point. If you just wanted, it's open for all people of all ages and all abilities. So if someone could only, they think, well, I can't walk 12 miles, but I can do 3 miles, then you're more than, they're more than welcome to wait for us up there as well. And all of you could never 100% guarantee that it'll all go really, really smoothly, but what I've done is I've put some sort of timings around those, so and people can sort of say, oh, I know they're going to be due here in the next 20 minutes or so, and grab yourself a pint, wait for us to come along, and then join in, or leave if you can only do the beginning. So I'll post that out to you as well. It's a little timetable.
Fantastic. Everything will be retweeted from the Bergkamp Wonderland podcast account, guys. If you can join at any point, do. If if you can't get there, when the guys turn up at Piebry, when they turn up at the ground, make sure you give them a good round of applause. Be part of it. Every little contribution will help to this. And I want to put this in a perspective now. So, we're all normal Joes here. Mrs. Price has made a special guest star appearance.
And my daughter as well, but you missed her, I think.
I'm Price Jr. We've tried to be as honest as possible tonight to talk to you about, some of the experiences, the way we feel, etc. But it can happen to a young guy in a small town where mental health gets the better of them. It happened to Gary Speed. As a Welshman, he captained his country. He played with dignity. Everybody who met him thought he was this lovely, happy-go-lucky guy. He became manager of his country. You wouldn't have thought that there was a problem there. You wouldn't have thought that he had issues. And then comes the day when, unfortunately, they find him and he's taken his own life. Mm-hmm. So this is important, it's important. you may not be suffering, but if you're talking to somebody and you mentioned, these guys, this guy, Paul Price, he's organised a march from Selhurst Park to the Arsenal, blah, 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 about mental health. That may be the instigation to help somebody go and get help. It may be the spark that's needed to light the fire for somebody to go and get help. So please, guys, be open, be honest, be welcoming, be understanding to each other, okay? We're going to wrap the show up now. As I always say on the live shows, be good to yourselves. Take care of yourselves. Be brilliant, okay? You've only got this life. There's nothing afterwards. There's nothing that's going to change it. Once you step too far over the edge, it's tough to come back from. Just tackle it early doors, please. People like Paul are brave enough to organise these things. People like Lee, the Fulham fan, he's brave enough to get out there and start doing stuff to raise awareness and money. You only need to be brave enough to talk about it. John Welsh has always been honest and brave in the way he's spoken about this and the way he's tackled it. And I tip my hat off to both these guys because, bloody hell, I'm not sure I could be that man. If you need to speak to somebody, there's CALM, which is the Campaign Against Living Miserably. It states for men aged 15 to 35. The phone lines are open from 5 to midnight, okay? The phone number is 0800 58 58 58. If you go on the NHS website, there are plenty of helplines. There's plenty of websites to contact, okay? There's also the Samaritans. Right? The Samaritans contact number is 0300 123 3011. That's open from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. every day. There's also Sane Line, which is on 0300 304 7000. That's open 4:30 to 10:30 every day. The special lines, if you're under 25, you can call the Mix on 0808 808 4994, and that's Sunday to Friday, 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. We will post these close to the date on the Twitter website. There's plenty of places you can get help, and if you're an ABW listener, you can message us. You can message us. There are no excuses for this. Be brilliant. Take care of yourselves. Paul, I'm going to leave the last word to you to end the show. So before we come to that, okay, John.
Yes.
You're a star. Thank you ever so much, mate.
Thank you. I've got a question for Paul, actually, before he has the final say. Paul, Arsenal really need a left-back in the summer.
No.
How good is Wan-Bissaka's left foot? Is it good enough?
No, he's not. His left foot's his right foot's bad as well. I don't know. It's just not worth looking at, if I'm honest.
He's telling me this, I'm not sure I believe him.
No, he's a massive talent. He's only young. He's probably one of the best tacklers I've seen. We've had so many, what you'd call world-class players come to Selhurst or away, and he's just managed them all. So
brilliant.
But he shouldn't. The last thing he needs is to go somewhere at his age. He needs to develop a bit more. His tackling defensive game is fantastic. Needs to develop that sort of a wing back, get forward a bit more play. So then he'll be a complete player. But he's, as I say, still only young. From a club's point of view, his value can only go up. So why rush? Just learn it. Got Roy in charge, so there's a lot of experience there as well. So he's in that learning phase.
We'll give him another year to work on his left foot, and then we'll come back.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, please.
That's fine.
Let's just hope he's a bit more Ian Wright than he is Eddie McGoldrick.
I love Eddie. Eddie's a top man.
To be fair, I liked him as a player. It's just it wasn't the best move for either party, really, was it?
But Kenny Sampson was, though.
Yeah, he was. He's
my all-time favourite Palace player. and still is.
He's a lot of Arsenal fans' favourite for Arsenal player as well.
Yeah, and I know you've got Ashley Cole in the mix, but I still think.
Oh God!
Oh, no, he was 6 when he left you lot.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I never finished the sentence. What I was going to say was, I still think Kenny was the best left back England ever had.
I mean, our fans will agree. Just as long as it's not Ashley Cole, it's fine.
Yeah. To be fair, I put Jack at left back before.
Right, so I've left it. I've touched a nerve, and then.
It's all right. You wrong yourself at the last minute. It's fine.
You put a finger right through my heart there.
No, I didn't.
It's a long time ago, isn't it? It's a long time ago. Okay, predictions actually for the Palace game, guys. Paul, you first.
Okay, I think we will probably lose 2-1. I always like to think we're going to score a goal, but all of the odds against us. Most of the teams we ever play, the odds are against us. We're, going into games as underdogs has always suited us. We've actually had some good records against a lot of the bigger clubs, and you're certainly in that category. But we'll be going with hope, not expectation. And as I said to you when we chatted earlier, we go to make a load of noise and have a good day. So that's what we're up to.
In all fairness, okay, I remember when Roy Hodgson took over, you had the likes of Danny Mills saying, "You're going down." Okay, the wrong appointment, it's all terrible. What's everybody doing? And you guys are healthy mid-table.
Yeah, all of a sudden we always seem to do it. We always have a slight scare, and then we seem to pull ourselves out of it. And sometimes that's at the detriment of like one of the bigger clubs. And we've got a terrific record against Liverpool and Man City. We've upset Chelsea. I think we've only beaten you once. I think it was 3-0 the other year at Selhurst.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we've got a bit of a track record for getting the odd. We'll lose against someone like Huddersfield, and then next week we beat Man City, which we did this season. So we're capable of it, but we don't expect it.
Okay, well, obviously, I hope we don't upset the apple cart this time round. But I got to be honest with you, I hope you'll beat everybody else.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Everybody else. John, your thoughts, mate?
Well, we're at home, so that means we hopefully play well.
Hey, we're going to pray, pal.
Like, if we're away, then I would have given it to Palace straight away.
I would.
I would. I think I might follow Paul's prediction. Go for a 2-1. I'm gonna throw this out now. We definitely conceded a penalty, and Mihailovic is definitely scoring it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's our top scorer.
And it'll definitely annoy Chris Carpenter, which I am going to love. Oh, who's your quick lad on the wing? Oh,
Zaha.
Yeah, Zaha.
Yeah.
And if it's Zaha who wins the penalty, it'll annoy Chris Carpenter so much. It'll be brilliant. I like that.
No.
Paul, wrap this up for us, please. Just wax lyrical about the day that you envisage for a couple of minutes, and what are you hoping for, Pat?
Okay, so what I'm really hoping for is, first of all, everyone to come and enjoy themselves. I'm hoping to get as many people there as possible. It is only me sort of leading it, so there's a little bit of pressure there where I could get people lost or that kind of thing. But it's only me. The more the merrier. It's very open. It's very friendly. It's all about reaching out, doing a bit of good, trying to make a difference, encouraging people to talk, and really more than anything, and I sort of touched on this earlier, the walk itself is around. That's basically the vehicle for the bigger message. I mean, the bigger message is all around that whole mental health and male suicide thing, obviously, but it's also the walk just gives us an opportunity to be able to send some pictures out. It gives us a talking point, gives us the opportunity to come on things like your show, also the whole social media thing that goes with it. And as we've discussed, those pieces are far-reaching. And Palace sent out an article the other. One of my articles a couple of days ago. That's hit sort of potentially hit 810,000 Twitter accounts. The ITV video, so it's about that. And what I suppose what we're trying to do is we're that sort of small stone that's creating a bit of a ripple, and we're hoping that transfers out. It'd be great if other clubs did this in the future as well. So I think some of your Arsenal guys are thinking about doing it as well. So doing it off their own back. Yeah,
to be fair, Gav, who got in contact with me about this, he's one of the grumpiest people I've ever met in my life. Okay, and he just God love Gav, okay, but he's no frills, does not care about much, and he was really passionate about this.
Yeah,
and said we didn't hesitate. We wanted to do this to help any which way we can, because it's important to all of us. And I just think I just tip my hat to you, mate. I really admire what you're doing. I admire Lee and what he's done. I admire John and being so open and honest, and the way you guys have tackled this. So to wrap this up, guys, thank you to you, Paul. You've been been a real pleasure having you on.
Excellent, thank you.
To Mrs. P and Miss P Junior. Appearances on the ABW.
Okay.
Thanks to you, John. John, thank you so much.
Not a problem, Jay. It's always a pleasure.
You're top man, mate. And the last note I'm going to leave you with all you listeners out there. Thanks for listening. Really, really appreciate the support on this. It is something close to our hearts. It is something we take seriously. Spread the word. Spread that positive message. Okay, be good to yourselves, be brilliant, and be good and brilliant to others as well. Please, 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 don't let life get you down. Don't let this scourge of mental illness, get the better of you. You can beat it. You may need help, but the help is there. And there are people like Paul and all those people who went on the Fulham march, and the people who are going to go on the march to the game of the Emirates. They care. They care about you. You are not alone. So please, please, please be good to yourselves. That's all from us. Take care. Thank you ever so much. And God save the Arsenal. And God, sorry, I nearly said Arsene Wenger again. What's going on here? I'm obsessed. And God save Palace.